Hello Internet, my name is Dave Gimmel, and just a very brief introduction. I am a local youth leader here in Brighton, in charge of the Gimmel Centre, as I like to call it. The actual official title is the Brighton Youth Centre, but for some reason the lads like to call it the Gimmel Centre. I think quite emotionally they connect me to the actual base, so I think for crying out loud, if you're going to call it the Gimmel Centre, call it that. One thing I've got to say, I don't want to be negative on my first vlog, video blog as it's called, but I have joined Facebook, and I think the actual outlet of the page is very nicely put together. I like you got the opportunity for photos, comments, which is fun. The only thing that's really getting me down, and in some ways depressing me a bit, I'm sort of laying in bed looking at the ceiling wondering what's going on, is a little caption at the bottom which says friends. And I've been on the Facebook page now for a good, 4 months, and I've only got 45 friends. And it's slightly confusing. It'd be alright if they were real friends, and it was a real sort of intimate little gathering, but they're not real friends, they're Facebook friends. And it's just a bit confusing why the number's so low. It's a bit frustrating, a bit annoying. I keep sending messages to people saying, be my friend. I don't want to seem desperate, but I'm doing a vlog to say, for crying out loud, I'm letting off a flare gun, a digital internet flare gun, to say, for crying out loud, I'm in my Facebook lifeboat, surrounded by nothing but passing seagulls and lapping waves. Someone bring me in. And also it's a bit rude where you leave comments on people's walls and they kind of ignore you, because Facebook's about connecting, and I feel like a sort of a node on its own. A bit lonely, really. All it is a big box that says I accept you as a friend. Click it. Just do it. And if you could do that, it'd be greatly appreciated, okay? You would stop the sleepless nights that I'm having at the moment. Talking about the internet, a bit of a anecdote. One of the things I'm going to be enjoying doing in these vlogs is sharing a few intimate domestic or Gimmel-based anecdotes, just give you a taste of who I am and what I'm planning to do in society. Interesting with the internet, there's some positive elements and there's some negative elements, and I think this anecdote kind of gives you a taste of my experiences with the World Wide Web so far. And it connects this t-shirt actually, which I'm very fond of, 007, which I think is perhaps the most respected and renowned of the film characters. Just below him I would say you've got Indiana Jones, and just below that the Ewoks. I think by far, in my own personal trilogy of kind of cinematic heroes, that would be my list. If you want to, underneath on the YouTube comment box, perhaps put your favourite film characters. But I don't think anyone's better than Bond. And that links into a domestic argument. Unfortunately, we don't like to have an argument with any family unit, but one certainly took place 4 months ago with my father. Usually a very quiet man, keeps himself to himself. I was in the kitchen eating my Alpin. My dad's more of an egg man. Likes to make his egg and likes to have a whole platoon of soldiers alongside the egg. And he was cutting up his soldiers, and we were chatting about what was on TV the night beforehand. And I was saying, Dad, he doesn't always reply. Dad, I watched favourite film, Die Another Day, 007, Pierce Brosnan. The one with the invisible car, fantastic gadget. I think in the future I'm looking forward to owning one of those. Once I get the driving licence, I'm going to get one of those. Pierce Brosnan, by far, best Bond ever. And for the first time, I didn't usually do this in past conversations, you just like nod and perhaps leave the room. I don't know, he always eats his eggs in the lounge, not sure why. But for the first time he spun around very quickly and he said, "You're wrong, it's Sean Connery." Dad, big guy, I don't want to start the day with an argument, but you are wrong, and here's the facts why Pierce Brosnan's better. And he turned around and he looked quite intense at me, and he said, "Dave, this is why I don't have conversations with you." And I was a bit taken back. What do you mean you don't have conversations with me? And he just marched out, took some rubbish and marched out into the front garden to put it in the bin. And I then slammed my spoon on the kitchen table, and I thought, no, I'm not having that. So I followed him out in the garden to make a valid point about the 007 franchise, a point that he needed to appreciate. For crying out loud, we're British, we've got the royal family, okay, we've got Paul McCartney, and we've got bloody Bond. So let's embrace these things and let's understand them and work out why the franchise works. And it's because of bloody Brosnan at the moment, not Daniel Craig. That's another vlog. I carried on about Brosnan, listing even more facts, and I could just tell, he just turned around and looked at me, and he could just tell that I'd intellectually bettered him. A debate had taken place. Usually breakfast time's very quiet, but an intellectual storm had risen, and I was winning. And I hadn't just won, I was basically just standing there with both hands on my hips, victorious. And he didn't have anything else to give. And I could see in his eyes, it was almost like, you know, a flashback was occurring. I don't know, back to my childhood. You know, it's almost like I was being a naughty boy or something. It was very surreal. He went to say something and he sort of stuttered. And when you corner anyone, they turn into an animal. And he just basically just almost leapt for me, and he just grabbed the shoulders of my shirt, and just his hands were shaking, and he was just looking up at me. He's a small man, just looking up at me like that. And he just swung me around, pirouette style, like Torval and Blumendine, and just pushed me over a fence. And there I was, just looking at the pavement, and he just brought his hand up and gave me a solid smack to the buttock. And I mean, I just sort of got myself up, pushed my shirt down. We just looked at each other. It was just like, it wasn't so much pain, it was just shock, confusion. He was almost more surprised than me, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what he was going to do. I thought he was having a fit. It was a very odd experience, and he was just looking at me for such a long time. He was almost looking through me, and it was uncomfortable and slightly embarrassing. And also, I've got to say, if I was going to be lent over by a 70-year-old man and given a spanking, I would prefer to have done it in the house, perhaps in the lounge or in the kitchen, not in the front garden where you have pedestrians wandering past off to their day at work, at the office, or working at a shop. It was very unusual and very odd. And what makes it even more embarrassing and just generally horrific, at that precise moment of contact where the palm hits the buttock, and the smack is heard and echoed down the street, a white van drives past. At that point, I wasn't interested. I was being, you know, attacked by my father, which isn't an enjoyable experience. It's certainly one you don't forget. A week later, I was at the Gimmel Centre with the lads, and I was talking to them about the internet, saying it's not just negative things you do with the internet. You don't illegally download albums from, you know, hard-working artists like Sting, or watch pornography, or go on the chat rooms and see what drug dealers there are down your street. You can do other positive things. You can go to other parts of the world. And they looked at me like, Gimmel, what are you on about? Give me a break, Gimmel. You can't go to different parts of the world. It's not Lawnmower Man. It's not virtual reality. I said, well, be ready to be proven wrong. And I put on Google Earth on the actual screen. I showed them New York. I showed them Kenya. And as a laugh, I showed them the street where I live at. Nice picture of the street. High resolution. And they said, who's that? Who's that small man with the grey hair, looks a bit like the Dungeon Master, pushing you over a garden fence, giving you a bloody slap on the behind? And it turned out it was my dad. And there I was, leant over the fence, my head up in shock, and an old man beating and berating me. And it all came, it's like the end of a Chris Nolan or Hitchcock film. It all made sense to me what that van was and why it was driving along so slowly. It was a Google Earth van. At that precise moment, a slap took place. A snap also took place of a photo of my street with me being basically punished or GBH'd by my father. What are the blooming chances? Part of me was ashamed, part of me was angry. I remember just being shocked and just thinking, you know, what was that about? Why did he do that? Why did he think it was appropriate to do that to his own son? And I thought to myself, did I think that? No, I just said it in the class with all the lads around me. And I said, just get out, all right? I know we've only been in the classroom for 10 minutes, but it's gone wrong. It usually takes 2 hours for things to go a bit, you know, manic. But just go already, all right? Just get yourself another cigarette or a bloody, you know, Twix from the vending machine. I'm just having a domestic meltdown here. And I looked at the actual screen, and it was a massive screen, and I zoomed in with a magnifying glass, and I saw my face. It was full of confusion. I saw my dad's. It was just full of anger and like a Pompeii volcano going off. And I thought, God, there's a lot of anger there that had been created through the years. So I got quite emotional. And I sat there in the porter cab in the classroom on my own, and I thought, in actual fact, I'm glad that image is there. And I hope the big guy, Dad, Pups, also realises it's there, because it's with the internet, that image is always there, ingrained in cyberspace for everyone to see, and more importantly for us to see, me and Dad, because it reminds us that was the point in the relationship where it went too far. Dad, alright, before this debate or argument about me clearing my room up or not washing the plates at the sink gets out of hand, let's go to Google Earth and see that photo of you vandalising me over the garden fence. And he'll look at it, I'll put on the magnifying glass, and he'll say, you know, Dave, you're right, we don't want that happening again. Me and my father have never spoken about the whole horrific beating situation. One day perhaps we will, one day perhaps I'll bring it up. It's quite bizarre, really. No one will connect to my Facebook page, so in that way the internet's completely redundant, but I still get a Google van driving past, like almost like the paparazzi taking a photo of me as I'm having some kind of Kate Moss meltdown in my front garden. So, very strange, very odd. No logic to it really, is it? Who knows, perhaps my dad will see this vlog and he might leave a comment below saying, Dave, you're right about Brosnan, and say, Dave, I shouldn't have abused your behind like that. I apologise. Not a problem. Let's carry on. Dad, before you go up the stairs, Die Another Day's on in a minute. Fancy watching it? Who knows? Families are funny things. D Gimmel, over and out.